City of Old Town Administrative Service Committee to order. Please make sure your phones are in vibrate or are off completely. And the first order of business is going to be bulky waste proposal. Public Works Director John Rulo will like to discuss a bulky waste proposal from Casella. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, thank you. Oh, that's loud.
We can hear you.
Yeah.
It's loud, but it's not loud at home.
It sounds loud to me.
You cannot hear it at home at all.
Okay,
Well,
folks.
we can hear you.
So, we do the annual spring cleanup. That's been happening forever and ever. You know, you're all familiar with spring cleanup. And most communities are moving away from that. In fact, I'm not sure of any that I know that still do the Public Works drives around, picks everything up at curbside. Most communities have moved towards a collection event where you find a common area. Often it's a Public Works or across the street here at the Old Town Canoe parking lot. You have a collection event where you put out several dumpsters, 10, 12 dumpsters. You have a crew there available. Everybody brings their stuff. It gets thrown in. We load it out in the proper dumpsters, and then it gets dealt with from there. Cost of that's about $4,000 a year. We spent that this year picking up the stuff that was non-conforming, because you always have things that you're not supposed to put at curbside that get left there.
So you spent $4,000 just on the stuff that you couldn't take
After we
the
spent
fact.
2 weeks picking up.
So that's not even counting the 2 weeks picking up.
Right, and then that didn't count the mountain of mattresses that we had to dispose of separately. Mattresses are dealt with differently now anyways. So I talked to my folks at Casella about how they've been doing it and if they could put a proposal together for a collection event. It would probably coincide with our household hazardous waste event, which has been separate. So it would be one big event where everybody can bring everything that is allowed to be thrown away to one central location. It's done in 1 or 2 days, and then that's it.
The question I have, though, I know Old Town and other communities, the problem is, even with cleanup, it's not that, picking it up, port to port per se, that it works because people who are renting or have renters in their home, well, actually, we don't have people living in the houses that they're renting. That's where the problem starts, where they put things outside by the road because they don't have any means or want to bring them to a collection event.
Well, I understand that, but I always ask, how'd you get it there? They always have the means to get it there, but when it comes to getting rid of it, it always seems to be just the curbside. This is as far as it can go. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm only offering this for your consideration because Bangor does it most everybody is doing it. I don't know of anybody at this point, nor does the folks that I contacted know of anybody that is still doing the traditional drive around. I mean, we put 320 to 500 man hours into 2 weeks worth of picking up stuff at the end of the driveways.
No, I'm not saying that it's not a good idea, John. What I'm trying to say is that we're still going to have a problem with people leaving stuff along the road, and we're going to end up picking up some of that stuff anyway.
Well,
Bill them for it.
It's
yeah.
the absentee landlords, and I agree with that, but that hasn't been something that's happened in the past, because there are times you guys go out when it's not cleanup week to pick up the mess alongside the road.
I agree. I also don't think that all of us taxpayers should be saddled with that responsibility. It's an individual's responsibility. And if we provide, I'm just saying that here's an alternate way to provide the same opportunity, maybe even greater, if we can coordinate an event so that you can bring your paint and your old fuel and your TV and all, everything,
More than
and
just a
have a big
couch,
community
basically.
event.
Yeah, and it's a great idea.
Excuse me, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, it's a great idea.
Charging for some of it, not for others of it, or is it all free at that point in time?
At this point, the only revenue is in appliance stickers, because but that charge is actually for, you have to purge Freon in most everything. If you take an appliance, there's typically some sort of a post-collection charge associated with it. So,
We pay for that. The people pay for that now.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But right now, we've only been collecting bulky furniture, mattresses. That's the huge part. Bulky furniture and white goods.
But this would be paint, like you said, computers, TVs, you could do
You
it
could
all.
do it all, yeah. We do that now in a separate event. The household hazardous waste is universal waste, which would be like compact fluorescents and electronics and pesticides and household chemicals. We do that separately, and the city pays for that, and that's about $7,000 a year for a single-day event. But we could make it a community event, and that's how many do it. Some communities will do it where they'll stage the dumpsters and collect them for a week, so the individuals are responsible to get it to the location, and then they can either leave it and then we'll consolidate it, or they have an event where, say it's a Saturday and everybody brings their stuff on a Saturday, and we have all the dumpsters and the crew lined up with the equipment to be able to pick it up, put it in the dumpster, and consolidate it. So there are different variations, but it would certainly, operationally, it will focus all the man-hours back on pure public works things. Like Memorial Day is always a big push for us at that time of year, so you take a lot of man-hours out of the equation to go door to door. And tonnage-wise, I think we picked up 20 tons after the event, and I couldn't even tell you how many tons we took ahead of time. But there was literally a mountain of mattresses. We had to stage them separately, because you have to bring them to the landfill a little at a time.
A thought there, I believe Hamden, and I may have it wrong, but I believe Hamden requires you to strip your mattresses before you bring them in.
I've heard that, and there's also pending legislation that, I don't know where it's at in the legislature, but mattresses are so bulky and they take up a lot of room in the landfill that some communities are making you, I know Millinocket does that, for instance. You have to strip it, take the metal out, the wood. You have to put work into it.
Right, right.
It's a huge help as far as landfilling it.
Plus you use space.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the name of the game.
Right, if I strip the box spring.
Yeah, and then the metal is salvageable, and then,
Also, it wouldn't even go to landfill.
and
The metal could go, so all you're gonna have is 2 pieces of cloth.
which is much smaller than the hole. It'll fit in a bag.
I believe we charge $10 for a box spring and a mattress to go.
Yes,
You
correct.
can buy a $2.50 bag, stuff the cloth in it, and everything else would be free to go now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you could save $7.50 by spending 10 minutes cutting the cloth off the.
I agree. A little bit of effort goes a long ways in the solid waste collection business.
What we have to do to make that happen, but I think that's a great idea.
Herman does that too, I believe. Ron could probably confirm that, but I know Millinocket does because I have a past there.
Is it, the other communities, they probably vary, but is it one location have the 20 dumpsters, or would you have some like out on Perkins, some out on Gilman Falls, some right back here?
From what I understand, it's all centralized. I know
centralized.
Herman does it where they've got it behind the town office.
Okay.
I think Orono does it at Public Works or maybe the town office. Bangor has a few locations, but I think if you leave them unattended,
Who knows what's gonna be
you
in
never
there.
know what you're gonna find. And then, of course, if you get some of that stuff that's non-conforming for
Right.
a landfill in it, then when you take it, you own it.
Right.
We have a huge,
TVs can't go out there.
can't we set that up to do that with the different dumpsters? You already got one piece of.
That's the idea. I mean, we could easily,
Here somewhere, because they.
Oh, you're saying doing,
At night, nobody's gonna add to it unless they wanna walk aways.
yeah. It's the execution of the program, I think, is pretty easy. We have plenty of facility.
right.
We could do it central if we were gonna use the lot next door for a while. You could do it quickly and do it efficiently there. We have Public Works with plenty of room, and we have the transfer station where many folks don't.
My
So
only
it would be
fear would
easy.
be on if you just had it, my only fear would be if it's one day, what if people can't be off that day if they're working? So if you had a couple different, yeah, if you had a couple different days.
You're giving them various days. I agree
Yeah.
with that. That's a great idea. But again, if we get people who are still leaving stuff beside the road, we have to be, if we're gonna police it and we're going to make this work, you're right, we've gotta charge them to pick that stuff up.
Yep.
There's an ordinance in place that will help us with that.
Well, it
Our
has to be-
solid waste ordinance. I mean, there's the enforcement part is when, is the great big guy back behind
No,
me?
he's not back there yet.
Oh, he's not
No,
here,
no,
but
no.
I'd look to him for that. And
I
and in
agree.
cases we have, like last year, for instance, this year we didn't, but last year, it was quite a process, but we had identified, I think, 29 locations, photographed them all, had to catalog it, find the addresses, send letters. It was a long process.
Find
And
the-
all for those who were just not following the rules. They just decided that I'll do whatever I want, and we picked up the mess.
Tax bill, put it on the tax bill. Tag it on to that.
Well, the thought occurs to me, tax bills haven't gone out yet.
You know, they're
We
gonna
can
be
set the
late.
tax bill. We could write a quick letter to go with it saying this is the way it's gonna be next year. And everybody wouldn't have an excuse for being notified.
That's right.
Because if you're a landlord, it's up to you to tell your tenants what to do.
There's a lot of folks around that actually make their living hauling stuff, you know, that,
People that will pick it up.
exactly, and it's cheap, you know, and I mean, and it does, that's a little bit of money back in the
Yeah.
economy, but you've got guys that have pickups that do it, and,
Right.
and they're not excluded. If they have a
Right.
dump pass, they're welcome to go, so.
Right.
And again, when people say all the time, how am I gonna get the TV? I can't move the TV. You got it there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So what, does this gotta go on the regular agenda, Bill, is this? Okay,
Yeah.
It is a policy that you can just do it. You need the council to do it.
Spring cleanup is identified in an ordinance now, in the solid waste
Is it-
thing, I'm
you're-
pretty
you're
sure
just
it's in
changing
there.
the way-
We have an ordinance. It's really,
you're just changing the
all
way
we're
that you're
doing
doing
is
it.
saying that we're gonna do
A little
action
differently.
Instead of,
Yes.
Really just doing, you're just changing what you're doing. You already have authority for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I-
oh, yeah,
Agreed.
absolutely.
No, I agree with Bill. That really has to go through the council.
Yeah.
So that way, there's some meat
I
to
think
it
it'd
per
be
se.
when's
better.
that council meeting?
But he can still put, and there's plenty of time to,
Tax bill's going out?
No, it's gonna be delayed. It's later in the
I
agenda.
understand. When the tax bill's going out? After the 5th? Or before the 5th? Afterwards? So we could tuck a letter in there then if you knew it was
Right.
coming? Okay,
Right.
perfect. Because otherwise you put it in the Times, not everybody reads the Times. You know, you say it here at a council meeting, even less people watch the council meetings.
We posted on Facebook, the website, cable access, the Times.
They're really good at the,
I don't do any of those things.
Yeah.
yeah.
no, we
You don't Facebook?
No, and I'm not starting.
Instagram?
Nope,
Ooh,
No,
Twitter?
no.
Nothing?
No. No.
We'll send a pigeon by.
So I'd like to make a motion to move this forward to the full council for approval.
do I have to hear the motion?
I'm not on the committee, I can't say
You're on.
anything.
No. So you made the motion,
Yep.
David? And Jan, second? Any further discussion? Take a vote, all in favor? So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes the agenda.
Can you just-
an adjourn motion? Oh,
Do it.
we need a gavel over here.
Jeez.
Do you want to adjourn?
Yeah, so moved.
Second.
Oh, all in favor?
Bang your gavel.
Yeah, where's your gavel?
There you go. Okay, moving on to the special council meeting. We have 4 items on the agenda. I call the August 21st, 2017 special council meeting to order. Flag salute. Councilor May, please. Thank you. Roll call.
Silent roll call has been taken and quorum is present.
Okay, for the minutes, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the August 7th, 2017 regular council meeting?
So moved.
Jan, is there a second? Stan, discussion? All those in favor? None opposed? We got 5 of us here tonight. Okay, petitions, communications, citizens' requests. At this time, is there anyone from the audience that would like to discuss an item that is not on the agenda? If so, please come forward, state your name and address.
Hi, good evening. My name's Edward Willie.
Yep, you can sit right at that table, or you can go to the podium if you want, whatever works for you.
My name's Edward Willie. I live right up on Elm Street.
Yep.
I want to talk to you guys tonight about maybe doing some improvements to the intersection of Center Street and Elm Street.
I get you just to sit down so I can hear you on the mic, that's all. Thank you.
You're on TV and they can't hear you.
I can't hear you anyway. That's why I want to bring that up in the council.
I appreciate you guys giving me time tonight. I know this probably isn't the regular meeting time for citizens to come in and air thoughts and concerns. However, I have a crazy schedule just like you guys do, so I took advantage of the opportunity to come here tonight. I'm here with my daughter Grace, and I wanted to discuss with you maybe doing some improvements to the intersection of Center Street and Elm Street. Now, I live on Elm Street. Me and my wife bought a home there, I think around 2003, 2004 timeframe. And just like everybody else, we enjoy the community atmosphere. We appreciate the town of Old Town. We love living here. And we find that that area in particular is very convenient, being so close to the stores, the schools, the athletic fields, the trails, and everything else that the town has to offer. Everything's just a short walk from us, and seeing all the children moving back and forth between the schools keeps us young and energetic. But I do have some concerns over the years with the actual intersection there. I know over the years there have been many improvements to the signage. Back when we first moved in, we had a crossing guard that was there. And through the course of time and several different budget cycles, the crossing guard went away. And then other improvements to the intersection occurred. Some were more successful than others, and I'm sure you guys can remember over the years what those improvements were. But right now, I think it's a particularly dangerous moment or time period, and a good opportunity to make some improvements. First of all, I'd like to say, in the interest of everybody knowing who I am, I work full-time as a police officer in a neighboring town in Brewer. So I've seen a lot of different traffic patterns over there through the years, and I use that as some of my experience base here while I speak to you. This isn't 100% a police department issue. The engineering and the way that the sidewalk is constructed needs to be improved to solve the root problem. The root problem is people aren't considering the crosswalk. They're not stopping for the crosswalk area. They're going too fast through the crosswalk area. And of particular concern is if you are coming down the hill on Center Street, this being the hill here, you're coming down the hill on Center Street and you're going to make a left turn onto Elm Street. If you're stopped there with your blinker on or without your blinker on, it doesn't really matter, because the cars that are going to come down the hill behind you are going to go right to the right of you and continue going right through the intersection. Now, that's not a two-lane road right there. It's not a two-lane, place for, there's no passing lane. So that shouldn't be occurring. That's an engineering problem. When you're doing that and you're making that pass on the right, you're concentrating on a telephone pole on the far right and the edge of the car that you're going to be passing. And if you're in a pickup truck or something, it's very close. It's not safe. So the last thing that you're going to be expecting is a small child or a bicycle to come across that crosswalk. It's not really a question of if, it's more a matter of when. Now, I have known several children who have walked across that intersection, and it's been very close calls. Over the past year, my daughter's gone to the middle school, so she walks. And several of the children from the community, or young adults, teenagers, they have a tendency to gather on my porch in the morning so they can walk as a group. So that's really when I started to take a bigger interest in this actual intersection. My wife and I use the trails at Perkins Avenue. I jog there, I run there. My wife walks and runs. If you were sitting at my house, which is 27 Elm Street, it's close to Mill Street, throughout the course of a regular day, you would see children walking to school from the middle school area towards the high school. You would see high school students walking back in the other direction. You will see preschoolers tied together, walking from the preschool to the pool area. You will see sports teams crossing that intersection, the football team, the cross-country team, the field hockey team. They all make that transit throughout the afternoon. You'll see regular people like yourselves or me who are out walking recreationally throughout the area. Some people are going to stores, to whatever, parks, libraries, things like that. It's a central route. It's a very well-used place for pedestrian traffic. Now, does Old Town consider itself a pedestrian-oriented town? I think we do. So we should make these improvements. Now, I don't know how the improvements need to be made. I'm not sure if it's a DOT road. There are a lot of questions I have. But just turning to the law enforcement perspective, we could put a police officer, an armed sentry, on that crosswalk for the next 2 weeks and write 25 or 30 tickets. And you're going to get some fines, and you're going to upset some people, and some people are going to stop at the crosswalk the next time they come through. But the majority of people, when the police officer is gone, are going to continue because they're in a hurry. They want to get to work and they're running behind. They want to get to the red box before the Hannaford closes. They have different places to go. They're on their phones, doing text messaging, not paying attention. They're under the influence of alcohol, methadone, any number of drugs that has inflicted our communities these days. And they're just not paying attention. So the root problem has to be to prevent them from crossing on the right and to slow them down at the intersection. Now, there's a couple different ways we can do that. I think the best case scenario would be to have a speed bump, but that's problematic for a number of reasons in the wintertime. I have seen in a lot of different places speed pads or speed tables, and they're much thicker and easier for snow plows and whatnot to get across, and they do slow traffic down. It's fairly inexpensive. It's pretty much, I guess, a lump of pavement with some paint on it. I have some pictures. if you'd
Yep.
like to see.
What's it called? Speed pads?
A speed table or speed pads. So they're thicker, they're marked, they're signed appropriately, and instead of a speed bump, which is a very short, narrow, and steep thing for a snowplow, for example, to get over, this is a speed pad. It's a little bit longer and easier.
Okay.
And Public Works employees would know it's there, and they would just need to slow down a little bit when they're plowing that area. It's very doable, and they have them in other communities here in Maine with the same weather conditions and plowing issues that we have. Another option would be temporary speed bumps that you can put in and remove during the wintertime if you needed to. I have some pictures of those. Fairly inexpensive, temporary. There are signs that can be placed in the roadway, in the center of the roadway, to indicate a crossing. There are flexible bases, rubber bases, that if they're struck by a car, they're just going to kind of bounce out of the way. They may damage the car some, but it's not a permanent structure in the roadway. And last is the crossing guard, which that would be the 100% best scenario if we could get a crossing guard back there. I don't know if realistically that's ever going to happen. Perhaps there are some volunteers who would be willing to do it, but I'll give you the picture just in case. Now, as far as the sidewalk itself, there's some different ways to design the sidewalks in the areas there. If we could have the crosswalk itself kind of angled out, it's hard for me to explain. You can see it in the pictures. It's very easy. But as far as the DOT roadway and what the conditions are, what the municipality can do with the DOT road, I don't know. Those are questions that I have come here to ask you guys. But I can show you these pictures of intersections that have been improved, crosswalks that have been improved over in Brewer, and that's Route 9, South Main Street. So there's as much traffic, if not more, on South Main Street in Brewer with this particular crosswalk design than there is at the intersection of Elm Street and Center.
I think that would be my question. What can we do on that road where it is a state road? But if it's something maybe temporary, like you're showing, maybe whether it's that sign that's out there or those other temporary speed bumps. But I guess have to look at Bill to see what
Well,
he would know what
basically
we can and can't do.
you just push the curbing out in order to prevent cars from making that right-hand pass.
On the
Isn't it illegal anyway to go around? I always thought it was illegal to do so.
Yeah, I would assume it is. It's not a passing zone. There's only one lane there.
That's right, so
Right.
it's illegal to go around.
But, you know,
But I'm wondering even just
Traffic
just seeing
patterns
those
are what
pictures,
they
like
are.
you say, like that's the sign, the flexible sign, to have
Mhm.
something like, because it is dangerous. I mean, I drive that every day, and
Oh,
you're
it's-
moving down that hill, you're going. Even myself, I have to watch, see how fast it goes. I agree with you on all this stuff. I just don't know what we can and can't do with that road. But I mean, at the very least, I would think those temporary, that sign that you had, or the temporary speed bumps.
Another problem on that intersection is that it's so busy that you have people coming off Elm if you're
Trying to
make
get out
it-
there, yeah.
I'm so directionally challenged, but if you're coming off Elm and you're trying to make that left-hand turn, they just dart right out there.
Right.
And I know, I lived there for a lot of years, right on that corner. It's
I know they have they press it and the lights blink when someone wants to cross, but I still say if we had something else there. Like I said, that sign thing is really intriguing, if that was on both sides of the road, something like
Yeah.
that.
I know over the years, like I had mentioned, the crosswalk signals are there now. The solar-powered ones are very expensive. I think in my email to you, you had responded to me, they were $10,000 a piece. That's $20,000. That's a significant amount of taxpayers' money, my own money included. I pay taxes here just like you guys do. That was spent on those. Unfortunately, they're not effective enough. If you're at the top of the hill, sometimes you can't see the lights when you're coming down. There were some lights that were hanging above, and there was some signage that said when those lights in particular are flashing, then that would be a school zone. I'm not sure where the school zone begins and ends. I would think that the entire street, Elm Street itself, would be a school zone, and that portion of Center Street and that portion of Stillwater there would be a school zone by definition. But if it is a school zone, then it should be signed and lighted properly, and the speed limit would be 15 miles an hour.
Right, and I'm not sure, is it on that, is it?
Just looking at that plastic sign that's there, the size of it,
Yeah,
for the pedestrians crossing, even placing one of those on the right-hand side of the road when you're coming down Center Street Hill, if
that's
you
gonna
had
stop
one
people
there
from
and
from passing.
one in the center and one on the left-hand side, that's gonna pretty much stop people just in looking at those pictures.
Right, exactly.
Have enough room to go through there.
You're not gonna have enough room to pass somebody. That's exactly what I'm thinking. That just seeing that thing, it's gonna slow people down. And you're
It
gonna
should.
see it.
That's designed to slow people down.
Yeah, and you're gonna see it coming down the hill.
Mhm.
And like you said, even during the winter, if you got to move it because of plowing, that's one thing.
Whatever we can do, it's a safety issue to me.
Right.
Like I said, my daughter walks.
Oh, no, absolutely.
The other children walk. My wife and I go across that intersection there multiple times throughout the day. This year in particular, there's been a lot of construction in the area, so
Right.
things are up and down. But that's all winding to a close. They just redid the sidewalk on Elm Street the other day. It's really nice. Came out really nice. But the intersection there is definitely a situation that needs to be looked at very critically.
I mean, is that something where it's a temporary thing? That's something we could probably do on those roads, Center and Stillwater,
I think we could.
where it's temporary.
I certainly don't want to put John on the spot here. I know one
Right.
of the problems they have in plowing in the wintertime is getting a run for that hill.
Right.
Oh, that's right,
To
'cause
get
it's
able
high.
to get up the hill. So I mean, that's something I can
Well-
talk with him about, talk with Scott about. But
Right.
certainly putting some larger signage on the edge of that road will prohibit people from passing up the right because there's gonna be a sign there.
Well, during the winter, people going a little slower down there anyway, especially if it's storm and that type of thing. So, at least this would definitely help from people trying to pass on the right, because not going to be able to do that there. And I think he's right. It's both it's Center and Stillwater, both, because the kids are coming and going early morning, late afternoon.
They're going all
Yeah.
day long.
Yeah.
And they rush it. The cars coming down will rush the kids across. I mean, because you've seen it, they'll take whole teams across.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they will try to sneak right in,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's infuriating.
And then but the school buses come through there
Yeah.
every morning.
Right.
It's crazy how many school
Oh,
buses
yeah.
go down Elm Street.
Oh,
They
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
have buses lined up throughout the whole street, and then the community connector or the BAT bus or whichever one it is picks up people there. So there's a constant flow of pedestrian traffic getting on and off the buses.
Right.
So it's a very busy pedestrian area.
Yeah.
So I think we should put a priority on the safety of pedestrians crossing that particular intersection.
Are we all in agreement to have Bill go forward with this to see what we can do? Like I said, those temporary things, work with John and Scott, see what we can do for both.
What's the
Both
speed limit?
streets.
What is the speed limit? Is it?
Well, you got me concerned about
20
the school zone.
25.
I thought the school zone is on Stillwater.
It is on Stillwater for sure, because that's where the high school is. But
Yeah.
I mean, it may or may not be on Center Street.
On
I think
Oak
it's
Street.
supposed to be 300 feet from the facility.
Because that's where the school is. But I don't know if it goes into center or not.
So if we could look at that
Should.
too, Bill.
It should be right at,
One of the signs says when lights are flashing, it's school zone, and the lights don't flash, ever. So it's inappropriately marked right now, and it needs to be fixed. If it's a school zone, it should be marked and signed as a school zone and enforced by the police department if that's what's required. But just getting the correct lights and signage out there will be a big educational aspect for
Right.
the traffic pattern, I think. And voluntary compliance is what we really all want, isn't it?
Right. Yep.
Isn't it? I mean, don't we all just want
Yeah.
people to slow down at the intersection and maybe
Exactly.
doing some improvements to the sidewalk there and putting some more signs up? And I would really like to see a speed bump, whether it happens or not. I don't know, but I've come here to give my opinion, so.
yeah.
I
We appreciate it.
Definitely
and,
appreciate the feedback for sure. And Bill will go ahead to see what we can and can't do out there. And he's got your email, correct?
Yes.
Yep. So
Yes.
he can
Yep.
email you back once he talks to the police chief and public works director to figure out what we can do.
Excellent. Well, again, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of you guys. And does anybody have any questions for me?
I think we're all set.
um,
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Yep,
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much.
We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
want to say anything?
Thank you for coming, both of
Yeah.
you. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to discuss an item that is not on the agenda? Okay, we'll move on to reports. Council President, I have nothing. Standing committees, city councilors.
Yes. Had the opportunity to try to listen to a few of our meetings, past meetings. We really do need to do something about the sound system so that it is coming across clear. My husband is hard of hearing to begin with, but he always complained about the fact he couldn't hear, and I just thought, it's just put your hearing aids in, you'll be able to hear. Now, it's not just the hearing aids. There was no sound whatsoever. And Mr. Peterson, I hear you all the time. You were able to talk right into that microphone. Nothing was coming out. So we really should be looking at getting a system where if we're going to have it televised and we're going to have it done correctly, we need to make sure that the sound is working as well.
Because a guy came up and I thought we made some adjustments. He made some adjustments to make it.
Was beyond this mic.
Yes. But he,
No, that is not true, because I was watching Mr. Peterson's. Mr. Peterson has got the loudest voice, mine can be second probably, and he was right on top of that mic, and you could not hear a word.
they definitely have fixed it so it's louder within this room.
Correct.
No question about
There
it.
may be a mic here that doesn't work, but unless you're talking into it as close as I am right now, it's not, they're not gonna hear, like right now, the way you're talking into that mic.
They're not gonna take it. But if I was to go home and after it's on the, on TV, on the channel that it needs to be, you could sit there and you will not hear anything. Unless our TV is not broken, I know. But it's one of those things where it really is, it's difficult. I really think that if we're gonna have this type of electronic availability to our people, they should be able to hear it. And they shouldn't have to be talking like this and,
Well, I know one of the other options was to have the clip on. We all could have those clip
Well,
right to
one option
us.
you could have would solve this, which we've talked about before.
It's
You
up
hang
above.
mics right here,
and I agree.
and they're gonna hear everything you say.
Yep,
So you just need to
You
make
need to
sure
behave
that when you're
Yes,
talking
I
to these
guess
mics,
you'll
that
have
you
to.
do,
that is correct.
because they're gonna pick up every single thing that you say. You just let me know what you wanna do, and I'll make it happen.
Okay, we'll get back.
We gotta find out the cost.
Let's get a
that,
cost
too,
of that
so.
first, yeah.
But I just wanted to bring that up. Joe, if you're home, I said so, okay?
Any other counselor?
Have your mic up close.
Yes, I did, I went just like that.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, city attorney.
How close do I have to get to this mic?
That's good.
That
That's
works
good.
pretty good.
Just a few things. I wasn't here at your last meeting. I apologize for that. But since that time, we have looked into the various possibilities that the council has for options in getting rid of a derelict property that has become tax acquired, and we've shared those with the code officer and with the city manager, and I suspect that the recommendation will be made shortly as to what you should all do or what you may want to do. We have another matter. The code enforcement officer wasn't in last week, but we're ready to file a land use action on a piece of property on Front Street unless he's had some cooperation that
Good.
he hadn't had forthcoming to date. There are a few deeds that we're working on involving tax-acquired property that you acted on at your last meeting. And lastly, I'm working on the city's response to Xper's appeal of the State Board of Property Tax Review's decision. Our brief is due next week, so I'll let you know how it turns out.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, special committees. City manager, welcome back, sir.
Yes, thank you. Just working on the request for proposals with ransom on the Jefferson Street cleanup.
Yep.
And the only other thing, Ron sent out all the guidelines on the facade program to the downtown committee, so I believe Carol and EJ probably have seen those, and I can get those to you folks if you want to see what those guidelines look like.
Okay.
Please.
And hopefully the state will get their funding in line for us so we can get that going full charge in September, in Jan also. As
Yep.
those.
And that's all, that's for anybody that's doing the work now can't get that, right? It's anybody that's gonna start in September? Okay. Okay, any questions for Bill? Thank you, sir. Consent agenda, public hearings, old business. Moving on to new business. We have 4 items. We'll move right along here. City Council will discuss a proposed 2017 amendment of the city charter as presented in Exhibit A and consider scheduling a public hearing for September 5th, 2017. Public comment is encouraged. Councilor May.
Resolve, the Old Town City Council hereby orders the city clerk to provide the required statutory publication of notice of a public hearing to be held September 5th, 2017, regarding the proposed 2017 amendment of the city charter that is presented in Exhibit A with the agenda at the August 21, 2017 special council meeting.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Jan, discussion. All I'm going to say on this, we'll do a lot more talking on September 5th, but I did talk to one of the soon-to-be owners today, and they are in the closing stages of purchasing the mill, and this charter change that we're looking to do will help the council move forward with economic development opportunities, whether it's for the mill people or a couple other companies that are talking to Bill and I about coming in town. So on the 5th, I will talk more about that, hopefully with greater detail about what we're going to do down at the mill site, but I have to get everything cleared through the owners first. Anything else you want to add to
I
that?
don't know if you have any questions. Jamie Pitney, it's a bond counsel.
Our bond counsel is here tonight. He did give us a draft of it. Everything I looked over is pretty much everything we've talked about, I think.
We have one item now.
Yeah, come right up to the mic, Jamie.
So one item in what's before you in 7A at the very end, we need to complete the amount that we would have as a upper limit
Right.
on the economic development bonds that are used for loans and grants.
Okay. And that has to, I was asking Bill that because I did read it over the weekend and I didn't get a chance to talk to Bill till tonight. So there has to be a dollar amount into that. It can't just be.
It could be unlimited. We'd need to rewrite this a little bit before you acted on it.
Right.
But that's an option, yes.
Okay. I mean, we're not trying to hide anything, just trying to figure out
Yeah.
what's the best way to, I hate to see the council limit themselves.
Are you talking total amount
Yeah.
or
Well, what this,
separate incident?
no, this would be for all, so what this enables you to do is to issue bonds for economic development purposes, number one, but number two, to use the proceeds. So when the city borrows the money for economic development purposes, to make either loans or grants. And this is prompted by what the president was referring to a minute ago. So it would be all.
So if you put 3.5 million, for instance, and you used 3 million right away, that would still leave you 500,000 if you decided to have other,
Business.
yeah, other loans, a small loan program or something.
Okay.
But the other thing I would say procedurally is that give the schedule that we have here with the citizens voting and wanting to get this done at the November meeting, this is going to be your last opportunity to finalize this. If you make it, you might want to make a change after the September 5 hearing, but if you do that, I'm not sure the schedule would enable us to get this before the voters on November 7th.
Okay, my only problem is tonight, we're short 2 counselors tonight. But that being said, I can talk to each of them individually and let Bill know and can let you know, correct? As far as, you're saying this needs to be decided tonight, whether we put a dollar
Yes.
amount or?
Well, what we're going to put before the voters what we're going to put before the hearing should be finalized tonight. We
Okay.
need to have this document finalized by vote of the council. That's what this order that Councilor May read would do, is to put this document out for public hearing. And the citizens need to know what it's going to read so they can comment on it. Now, if you get comments that say we want to change this in some way, you'd have, if you decided to do that, I don't believe we would be able to get it.
In that time
Because
frame.
we'd have to re-advertise.
Right.
And we have 7 days and scheduling a meeting and so on. So I have not mapped this out with the clerk or with one of my attorneys who's helped me with preparing the schedule. But I think we should be looking at it as, I guess I'd advise the council be looking at it as, A, we need to finalize it for the hearing regardless.
Right.
But we also would be, I could be better prepared on the 5th to tell you, but I think that's what we've been operating under,
Yep.
is that.
So I guess my question to the council then would be, the council that's here, councilors, what, do we want to put a dollar amount in there? Or do you want to leave it as Jamie said we possibly could, to just say unlimited, so it doesn't limit us to anything?
I think I believe we should put a dollar amount in.
Okay. Do you know what?
No, I don't know what that is, but I really think that if we are unlimited, just is,
We could say not to exceed, correct?
Well, that's what this says.
So it's basically not to exceed, okay.
right, so you could say
Okay.
not to
And-
exceed 5 million.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
And then
okay.
as it's
Okay.
as it's paid down, as
Right.
city pays down the debt, if it
It'll
was
open up more of a chance
Right,
to
so if
borrow
it's-
money again, yes.
3 million we're going to use for this possible project, and we pay it down. We're going to be obligated to pay it down. We expect them to pay us, so we can pay it down. But however it gets paid down, then the 2 million left over would increase
Right.
Right.
gradually.
Gotcha. Okay. Stan?
I think we definitely need to put a limit on it.
Okay.
If I was sitting in the
Yep.
community, I wouldn't say you got unlimited bucks to borrow and spend on economic development.
Right.
Right.
And I'm not so sure, given the circumstances, that the limit ought to be $3 million, and we get some back before we can loan some more out, but I don't know what 2 other businesses you're talking to, so.
Right.
Good point.
Jan, what do you think?
It'd be nice to have the more upper limit, but we don't wanna get ourselves in a hole.
Right. Carol?
I think we need a limit. I'm not sure what the limit is.
I don't think we get ourselves into a hole, because I think who's ever on the council, it still has to be approved, correct? I mean, if somebody
the
comes
loan has
forward.
to be-
Right.
So, I mean, even if we, I guess, wasn't thinking, Stan, that the 3 million, forgot about that as far as going towards one particular entity. But it wouldn't be a bad idea to have a little bit more than that, maybe not 5, but,
I think 4 would be a safe bet.
and 3.5 or 4. I mean, I think that is a safe bet
Right.
before.
So are we okay with saying that it would be the maximum amount would be the $4 million?
That, I understand what you're all saying, and I think that gives you a little bit of room to, even if you had to provide some more help to what we're looking forward to doing here, that's another reason. It could be more for this, it could be something related, or it could be something totally unrelated. But
Right.
I can see the advantage. I had in mind at least $500,000 to start the discussion, if you will.
Right.
And what you're suggesting for, but that's all for you all, because we gotta operate if we get it approved by the voters.
Right.
I can live with the 3.5 too, either way. I think it just should be a little bit more than what we're going to be passing out right off, so.
Right. Bill, what do you, just for your feedback, do you 3.5 or 4? Do you think 4 is more of a safe bet, just in case we have these other businesses that are talking to us, that we won't limit ourselves?
It'll give you more flexibility. We're certainly not gonna just go out and spend the money
But
without.
I know that.
Right, yeah.
Exactly.
Because it's there doesn't mean we have to.
That's right.
That's right. So we could say it not to exceed the 4 mil.
4 million, correct.
Right. And of course, for your bond orders, you have to have a majority of the council approve them. It's not a majority of your quorum, it's a majority of all councilors. So that would be a little different than I believe with 7 councilors, am I not mistaken?
Yes.
You could operate in a meeting with 4, but when you're doing a bond order, all 4 of them would have to be in agreement that night.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. So it looks like we're all in agreement with that. And then you'll put that amount on there, then that will start the process for the September 5th meeting, and then
Well,
we'll
I think
vote.
there should be a motion to fill it, to motion second and approve before we act on this to insert the $4 million, and then a motion to approve the amendment
Amendment.
as amended.
Okay, so can we get a motion to add not to exceed the $4 million?
I'll make the motion to not
second it.
exceed.
Motion Linda, and then seconded is Jan. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 to 1. And then, okay, so that's the motion as,
Now we have a final document,
Yep.
and then we go back to
we'll vote on
what
the motion as
Counselor
amended.
May, yes, as amended.
Yeah, so motion as amended. All those in favor? None opposed. Okay, so that's 5-0. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And you'll be here on the 5th?
That was my understanding, is I should also attend on the 5th.
Yeah.
And
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
should I be staying around from this point
Nope,
forward?
you're all set.
Happy to do so. Why do you say that? Oh,
You're out of here.
I know you all do good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 2. The city council consider extending the due date for the 2017 real estate and personal property taxes. Councilor Peterson.
Resolved, the Oldtown City Council hereby extends the due date for the 2017 real estate and personal property taxes from September 13th, 2017 to October 4th, 2017, and shall commence bearing interest on October 5th, 2017.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Jan, discussion? All those in favor? None opposed. 5-0. City Council consider entering into a purchase and sale agreement for property located on Penny Road, Tax Map 13, Lot 3-A. Councilor May, please.
Resolve, the Old Town City Council hereby approves entering into a purchase and sale agreement for property located on Penny Road, Tax Map 13, Lot 3A, and further authorizes the city manager to execute all necessary documents to complete the transaction.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Jan, discussion?
What are we entering into for a purchase and sale agreement?
I don't know yet. I don't have it finalized. I know that the university showed the folks who were interested in this property last Thursday. They drove up and looked at the site that off in the Penny Road. Andy Hamilton has put together some draft proposal. I don't have that yet.
This is the
When I-
one that we've discussed.
Yes.
We're going to,
Yep.
and the purchase and sale agreement will reflect that or less.
And until I get back that document, I don't have that yet to know exactly what it is. Before I ever go through with that, I'm gonna share that with you folks to make sure that you see it, read it. If you have any concerns with it, I can relay that back to him.
And there was a couple of things we asked you to look at with that you already addressed, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And I've talked to him about that on the length of the commitment, because before they wanted to, it would have been basically an 8-year option that they were looking at on that.
Okay.
Which I brought those concerns back. I know they've changed that in there, basically into a year,
Okay.
but I don't have back that draft yet.
Okay. All right, any other questions? All those in favor? None opposed. Last item on the agenda, the city council will consider going into executive session for the purpose of discussing the economic development update relating to the Experior Mill. Councilor May.
Resolve the Old Town City Council hereby approves going into executive session pursuant to Title I MRSA, Section 405, Paragraph 6C, for the purpose of discussing an economic development update relating to the Experior Mill.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. All those in favor? None opposed, 5-0, and it is 7:22. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.